Looks like it's 6 o'clock if everyone's ready to get started. Perfect. Well, good evening and welcome to the Boise City Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing. A few things to start out with for tonight's proceeding. Everyone from the public entering the hearing virtually has been automatically muted and cannot speak. As the item you're interested in comes up for discussion, you'll be called upon and unmuted. There is a chat function in Zoom. This is not part of the record and should only be used if technical difficulties arise. Our procedures for public hearings begin with a presentation from the planning team, then we'll go to the applicant and then the representative of the Registered Neighborhood Association. This will be followed by questions from the commission, and after that, we will proceed to public testimony. We'll first start with those that are here in person, then those who signed up on the sign-up sheet in advance, and then finally, anyone who raises their hand virtually in Zoom. If you are attending through your telephone, you can type in *9 to raise your hand. Each member of the public is allowed up to 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. And finally, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the commission will deliberate and render a decision. Madam Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you. We are citizen volunteers appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. We make final decisions on conditional use permits, variances, and appeals, and recommendations to the city council on subdivisions, rezones, annexations, and code or comprehensive plan amendments. Any decision made tonight may be appealed to the city council, provided that the appeal is filed within 10 days of this hearing. In order to file an appeal, you must have given written or oral testimony at tonight's meeting. So that's why it's important to give your name and address when you testify tonight. We utilize a consent agenda. This means that if the applicant agrees with the staff report and if there is no public opposition, the item will be placed on the consent agenda. All items that are placed on the consent agenda are approved with one motion without further public comment. For items not on the consent agenda, we will hold a full public hearing in the order just detailed a few minutes ago with staff, applicant, neighborhood association, and then the public testimony. Thank you all for attending tonight. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Schaefer.
Here.
Danley. Moore.
Here.
Mooney. Seha.
Here.
Horace.
Here.
Doan. 4 present, 3 absent.
Thank you. So we'll start first with the deferral. We have one item to be deferred with unmet site postings. That is item number 3, CUP 24-34 and CVA 24-24. That's at 1504 West Limp Street, conditional use permit for parking reduction on 0.15 acres in an R1C HDO residential traditional with historic design overlay zone, and a variance to deviate from the access and connectivity requirements is also included. We are deferring that to March 10th due to unmet site posting requirements. I think. Is there anyone present wanting to testify who could not return on March 10th in person or online? Seeing none. I would like to entertain a motion.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I move to defer item number 3, CUP 24-34 and CVA 24-24 to our March 10th, 2025 meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Schaefer and a second from Commissioner Schaefer. Can we please call the roll? Or any discussion? All right, can we please call the roll?
Schaefer.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Seha.
Yes.
Horace.
Yes.
All in favor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on, we'll look at the consent agenda. We have a few items for the consent agenda, but we'll start with the minutes. We have the minutes from the work session on February 3rd, hearing on February 3rd, work session on February 10th, and the hearing on February 10th. We also have item number 1, SUB-44 for Bobby's Addition subdivision. That's at 800 South Robert Street. It's a preliminary and final plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 2 buildable lots on 0.19 acres in an R2 zone. Is the applicant present? I see.
Madam
Eamon.
Chair, I do have Hammond Park online, I believe is the applicant.
And are you in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report?
Hammond,
Eamon?
can you hear us?
And we can't hear you, Eamon, if you can
you
hear
hear
us, hopefully.
We've spoken with the applicant and they were good
Okay.
with everything.
Okay, cool. I understand that the applicant is in agreement with the staff report. Is there anybody in the chambers or online who is here in opposition of item number 1, SUV 24-44? Seeing none, I move that we place this on the consent agenda. The next item is item number 2, SUB 24-53, Raver Johnson subdivision. This is at 11. This was deferred from the February 3rd hearing and is at 1123 West Joplin Road. It's a preliminary and final plat for an industrial subdivision comprised of 5 buildable lots and 1 common lot on 5.81 acres in an I-1 zone. And is the applicant present either in the chambers or online? No? So I guess we can assume that they're in agreement with the staff report. Is there anybody in the chambers or online who is here to speak in opposition to item number 2, SUV 23-53? Seeing none, I move that we place that on the item number 2 on the consent agenda. We will hear number 4. And the final item eligible for consent agenda is SUV 24-17. This is Gerard subdivision at 2939 West Hill Road. It's a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 4 buildable lots on 0.37 acres in an R1C zone. And is the applicant present tonight? And are you in agreement with the staff report? Let the record show that he is in agreement. And is there anybody in the chambers or online that's here to speak in opposition to item number 5, SUV 24-17? Seeing none, I move that we place item number 5 on the consent agenda and we will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve. This is my first time making a motion to approve minutes. So approve tonight's agenda meeting minutes from February 3rd. So work session minutes from February 3rd, meeting minutes from February 3rd, as well as our February 10th work session minutes and meeting minutes. In addition, items for the consent agenda, item 1, SUB 24-44, the Bobby's Addition subdivision. Item 2, SUB 24-53, Rebar Johnson subdivision. And item 5, SUB 24-17, Gerald subdivision.
Second.
Perfect. I have a motion from Commissioner Seha and a second from Commissioner Doan. Or Torres, I'm sorry. Any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Schaefer,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Seha,
Yes.
Horace,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
All right. Thank you. And good luck with your projects. All right. The remaining item that we have on the agenda tonight is item number 4, SUB 25-6, Ben subdivision at 5727 Hill Road. It's a preliminary and final plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 53 buildable and 9 common lots on 8.13 acres in an R1B and R1C zone. And Mr. Moser,
Thank
can
you,
you take it away?
Madam Chair, members of the commission. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary and final plat for a residential subdivision comprised of 53 buildable and 9 common lots located at 5727 West Hill Road on 12.13 acres in an R1B and R1C zone. As seen here, the surrounding neighborhood is primarily comprised of detached single-family houses and open space. The Farmers Union irrigation lateral extends along the south and the west property line. There is some background and history associated with the subject property. The site has already obtained a planning approval for 42 attached townhomes and 11 detached single-family homes. In 2022, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved a plan unit development and a preliminary plat for the project. Under the Legacy Code, the PUD granted or plan unit development granted reduced interior setbacks and allowed for flexibility on the dimensional lot standards, which allows for the paired townhouses on the backside of the property. However, while the applicant was installing the site improvements of the preliminary plat, the preliminary plat subdivision expired, but the plan unit development approval is still active because they acted upon it by installing the required infrastructure on site. In summary, the applicant is requesting a new preliminary and final plat approval with a development that matches the original project design and layout. This slide shows the proposed landscaping and final plat that basically matches the PUD from the original design. This slide shows the perspective of the development that was submitted with the original PUD or plan unit development approval back in 2022. As you can see, the plan unit development design matches the subdivision design that is before you tonight. The planning team did receive letters from the public regarding the project. These letters generally express concerns to the project's density, traffic, biking, and pedestrian safety in the neighborhood. To address these concerns, I would note that the project density of 53 dwelling units and the site design were approved with PUD 21-00057, which is still active, and the ACHD reviewed and noted that there is traffic capacity on the adjacent roads to support the project. Finally, the applicant is installing detached sidewalks along Hill Road abutting the site and within the development. They're also installing a multi-use pathway adjacent to the irrigation lateral abutting the site. These sidewalk and pathway improvements will improve and protect pedestrian and bike connectivity throughout the neighborhood. The planning team finds that the preliminary and final plat application complies with all the required findings as per code, and as such, recommends approval of the subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moser. Next, we will hear from the applicant. You can come on up and state your name and address, and then you'll have 5 minutes. Or 10 minutes.
It was red. You need me to restate? Okay. I'm Kent Adamson with River Ridge Engineering at 2447 South Vista Avenue, applicant on this project. I wasn't the original applicant. That was actually another owner involved at that time. And they did all the entitlement work. And it's kind of how the confusion happened here with it expiring during construction. So, but basically, they have constructed this entire project almost. I mean, it's got down to pavement at this point. So it's pretty much there. We were just getting ready to do the platting work and kind of fell into that we had lapsed. So, and as far as I had seen, there was, some questions about density and that sort of thing. And originally it had a, see if I can see my own writing here. It had a R1C for partial of the project, and it also had a sorry, can't see in the light here. R6 in the other section, and they had done basically a calculation that we could put in 53 lots on the property, and the original plat, this plat that we're proposing tonight, still meets those conditions. So we haven't changed anything. And they did the PUD basically to import the annexed lot in, so we didn't have to rezone again. So that was it. And they did change a few of the setbacks, but all that stuff is still to the original plat that we had, submitted. So with that, we're asking for approval from you guys tonight, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I think correction, I said 5 minutes, I meant 10 minutes, but it's up there on the schedule. So next we have, is there anyone representing the neighborhood association? I think it would be Doug Drinka. I'm not seeing anybody. Okay. And next, are there any questions from the commission? For either staff or the applicant?
Madam Chairwoman, sorry.
Commissioner
Uh,
Torres.
My question is for the applicant. I asked this a lot about most housing projects that we hear. One of the goals the city has with the modern zoning code is to try to increase not only the supply of housing, but also lead to more affordable housing, whether it's through market means or different incentives. So I always try to ask this question, and I realize you can't give me a firm answer, but do you have a rough idea of what these units will sell for or rent for?
I know the owner does.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you could start with your name and address as well.
Travis Perry with Core Building Company, 152 South Kestrel, Eagle, Idaho, 83616. So to answer that question, of course, that's $1 million question. We're still very infant, and we ran our preliminary numbers, and we anticipate being able to bring homes to the market at about $575,000 would be our starting lowest price. Obviously, it'll go up from there based on what the lots are. Like the ones that back up to the canal, obviously, will be a premium. If that answers your question,
Madam Chairwoman, follow up,
Please.
I guess as a follow up, was there any consideration of making some of the units be lower priced than others, to meet more affordability goals, or did you?
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I guess with that being said, the cost of the land, I mean, if you look at your land basis alone and development cost, I don't know who could possibly do something less than that just based on what the land acquisition was and development costs are now today. So, and if you look at a new home in Boise that's 2,000 square feet at $575 starting would be, I mean, I don't want to say that's affordable, but that's well below market in that area of town right now for new construction, because the comps we're looking at now are exceeding well over 700 to start new construction at 2,000 square feet.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions while I'm up here? Okay.
Any other questions otherwise? I have one question, Mr. Moser. What happens if the plat expires and the PUD, what happens with the PUD if they, get everything built and then the plat expires and you don't get your CO?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, if the plat expires, then they have to come back and get a new plat. They can't record the subdivision or even pull building permits until there's a recorded subdivision here that actually recognizes these lots.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
which is why they're back before you. I mean, the PUD granted them the entitlement for the density, the setbacks, the lot designs, those type of things. But they still need to basically create the lots through the subdivision process. And that's what we're here for.
Sure. And so just as a follow-up to that, for what we're looking at here, we're not really looking at necessarily the density. We're, as I understand, are really looking at whether or not the plat conforms with the PUD, which is kind of the zoning of that lot is that PUD. And so whether or not it conforms with that and not necessarily looking at the PUD or the density itself.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, that is correct. I mean, it's looking at for compliance with the original planning approval from 2022. Plus, it still needs to meet the basic findings for a subdivision regarding our comp plan policies, which it does.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Thank you. I guess, David, the only follow-up I have is, did we address this? Is there any change in process with the new code? Just out of curiosity.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, unfortunately, no, the PUD and the subdivision go to different hearing bodies. So they have different processes to basically renew them through the expiration process. And we still kept and we didn't change anything from the legacy to the modern zoning code and how that works.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Perfect. Well, seeing none. And we go to the sign up sheet, but I don't think there's anybody that signed up. So we'll open it up to the public. If there's anybody in person or online who wishes to comment on this project, please come up to the podium or raise your hand. I see a hand went up.
Madam Chair, I do have a David Zippelman online.
Perfect. Mr. Zimpleman, if you could state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
David Zimpleman, 5626 West Hill Road. That's Boise, 83703.
And please, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. Oh, my biggest concern, I just moved in here recently. I've only been in here since June, and I wasn't really aware of this development across just catty corner from us. My biggest concern is the density. This is already a road that's just full of traffic. You've got bicycles on it, pedestrians on it. You've got a blind curve that doesn't have a bike path on it. They have to share the road with other cars. There's only one entrance in and out of this development, and there's very few ways to get to this development on side roads. My concern is just the amount of traffic and just be able to get out of, like, even for me to get out of my driveway or more, it's a safety issue with the pedestrians and the bicyclists and just cars in general. How did they go about determining it? It sounded like it met guidelines, but it's like the density was really addressed on, can the roads and this type of road handle this many? There's no other developments in this area with this many houses on it that I've seen. So my concern is about the density. How was that determined that this road could handle 53 units, which would increase maybe 100 cars on that little spot right there?
And unfortunately, we can't answer questions right now, but there will be an opportunity for the applicant to rebut.
Okay. All right, that's my biggest concern, was just the safety of it and the density. And I'm not familiar with these proceedings as to for how to go about handling these things, but that's just my concern with it, and would be against it for those reasons, just for safety reasons. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Mr. Zimpleman. And is there anybody else who did not sign up who would like to testify either in person or online? Seeing none, we will move to rebuttal by the applicant. If you have a rebuttal, please come up. You'll have, I think it's 5 minutes.
Again, Kent Adamson, you've listened for proposal. Basically, the density was set by the code at the time in 2022, and basically the PUD that was done. And we basically kept with the original density with the hybrid calculation that was done with the 2 lots that was there. So we didn't actually add anything with the PUD. And in addition, there is actually 2 accesses to the site. There's actually the main access and a fire access. So that was addressed also for the number of lots that are in there. And then also, as far as the traffic goes, the project was approved by ACHD, and we don't go too much further than that. As far as if they approve it, it's their road, so that's kind of how that's approved. But with the traffic counts, they prepare. So, is there any other questions?
No more questions at this time, but you've got a couple more minutes if you want.
No, all good.
Perfect. Well, with that, we will close the public hearing and put the item before the commission. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Madam Chair? Oh, sorry, were you?
Commissioner Torres?
I move that we approve SUB 25-6 with all the terms and conditions of the staff report.
Second.
All right, I have a motion. And just to clarify, I think SUBs would be recommending.
I'm sorry,
approval.
recommend approval.
So I have a motion to recommend approval of SUB 25-6 from Commissioner Torres and a second from Commissioner Seha. Any discussion?
I'll say something since I motioned. this seems fairly straightforward. I hear Mr. Zimpleman's concerns about the traffic, but this was already approved once in 2022. This essentially seems to be the most straightforward process for the applicant to essentially renew the approval. So I don't want to second guess this body previously when they approved it, and it seems to meet all the term. It seems to meet what the code requires. So for that reason and more, I recommend approval.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yep. Thank you. I'll be in support of the motion. I just thought I'd chime in real quick. I was on the commission when this project came through in 22. And to help answer some of Mr. Zimpleman's questions. First of all, Mr. Zimpleman, welcome to town and welcome to the neighborhood. To give you a little background, with this particular project, it was approved with a little bit more density. We annexed in parcel and reduced some of the interior setbacks just to get a little bit more density, which is one of the goals of the city, just to infill and increase density within the city limits of the city. And then to answer some of your concerns over safety, with developments like this, it's typical for the city to require things like detached sidewalks for public safety and access and some of those sorts of improvements to improve the neighborhood and the infrastructure within town. So that's a little bit of background, for the comments we received tonight. And then as the applicant stated that the governing body of our road system here in Ada County is the Ada County Highway District. And they give us recommendations regarding traffic loading and availability for increased traffic volumes on our roadway network. And in this particular case, they were in support of this proposal. So again, just a little bit of background for Mr. Zimpleman and anybody else in the audience on the history of this project. But this essentially is a bit of an administrative exercise here tonight, as there's been no substantive changes to the design whatsoever, and they're under construction right now. So I see no need to get in the way.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
Mhm.
And I'll chime in just a little bit. I agree with both of my fellow commissioners. I think, what we're looking at isn't really the density of the project, and it's not really the traffic impacts. It's just verifying that the subdivision meets the requirements of the PUD. And in our staff report, we have kind of a extensive commentary that it does. And so I think in my mind that meets the criteria. And if there's no other comments, we have a motion to recommend approval of SUB 25-6 by Commissioner Torres and a second by Commissioner Schaefer or Commissioner Seha. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Schaefer,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Seha,
Yes.
Torres,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Well, thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.